This is a quick guide to help you set up your assessment tasks in Review. Log into Review using your ZPass. Once you've logged into Review, as a course convener, you'll actually find a list of the courses you're in charge of this semester. To begin setting up your assessment task, simply click on the desired class. You can also choose other courses that you want to set tasks up for from the course drop-down menu. To begin setting up an assessment task, click the Task Setup tab. In this section of the page, you can start to see how to set up a task. Simply click New Assessment Task. Use the information from your course outline to give the task a name, a percentage weight, and whether you want the task to be active or inactive at this point. Be aware that students can actually log into Review at any time, but they won't be able to see grades that are in progress, but they will be able to see the criteria for assessment tasks if it's active. So it's up to you whether you want to make it active or inactive at this stage. Never click AOL. Always leave that blank. Hide from students simply means that even if the status is active, you can hide it so it's invisible to them. I recommend not touching this. Also, I recommend at this stage not touching the hurdle assessment. Student self-assessment is where you can actually allow students to come in and grade themselves. They will see their mark and your mark at the same time. Show mark to student is if you want them to see a numerical mark for the assessment or a grade mark. At COFA, often we just give students grades, so I'd recommend leaving this blank as well. Anonymous marking, I would leave this blank at this stage as well. Set a due date for the task using the calendar. And slider is very important. Always choose standard marking scale, which will give you your fail, pass, credit, distinction, and high distinction. For type, make sure that you choose general. Final means it actually submits marks, but COFA at the moment is not connected to the main system with Review, so just choose general. Assessment criteria weighting is important because it allows you to add your own percentages to each assessable criteria. So if you think one is more important than the other, you can reflect that in its weighting. I recommend to begin to select auto, which means each assessment criteria in the assessment will be given equal weighting. Make sure that you save the task. Please note that it will tell you that it's saved correctly, but you have to press the Go Back button to begin to put in your assessable criteria. Now you can see that we have our assessment set up, but to actually make this a real assessment task, we have to put the assessable criteria inside the task so that everyone has something to mark against. To do this, go to the criteria column and press Setup. Now it's important at this point to remember to refer to the UNSW graduate attributes and to align each assessment criteria that you will have listed in your course outline to a particular UNSW graduate attribute. Remember that I've prepared an example of how to do this here. Please refer to these and spend some time thinking about how your criteria relate to the UNSW graduate attributes before you begin this step. It will make it that much easier. To add an assessment criteria, simply press the New Assessment Criteria button. This is why working with the UNSW graduate attributes is so important, because you have to begin by choosing which category of graduate attribute your assessment criteria will relate to. You have to know this ahead of time. So for example, if I chose the communication group, then it lets me choose the program learning objective. Now this is the actual individual UNSW graduate attribute. And you can see it automatically lists each one that's relative to the program learning goal or the UNSW graduate attribute category. So for this particular assessment criteria, I want to assess the digital literacy of my students. Always click Non-AOL and ignore the assessment criteria vault for now. So you can type in the name of your assessment criteria, and if you wish, you can describe what this means here. Also, if you want to ensure that you're giving all of your tutors and your students the best information about what constitutes a good or a bad result for each assessment criteria, you can fill in the different rubrics. So you can define here what determines a fail, a pass, a credit, etc. This will be shown to students, and it will also be shown to all of your tutors, a really good way to encourage parity. But this is not essential. I'm going to hide this for now. When you've finished filling out your assessment criteria, make sure that you save. Again, once it's saved correctly, press the Go Back button. Now you can see I have one assessment criteria in my assessment, and up in the Program Learning Goal Weightings, it shows me that so far my assessment is addressing the communication category of UNSW graduate attributes. I can add a second criteria in the same manner. I can continue to add assessment criteria as I need to, and you can see how it automatically is dividing the weight of each criteria amongst each of them. Now I've completed my assessment setup, and I have 3 different assessment criteria within my assessment task. If I click back to assessment tasks, I can see here's my task 1. If I want to create my next assessment task, I can press the New Assessment Task button. That's pretty much it for setting up your assessment tasks. There is another aspect to this, which is about marking in groups, but I will talk about that in another video.